So the other thing we want to talk about, of course, is that you and I have been trying to make the case, I have anyway, that liberals need to stand up for liberal principles. This is what I said on last week's show. Obviously, I got a lot of hate for it, but all I'm saying is that liberal principles like freedom of speech, freedom to practice any religion you want without fear of violence, freedom to leave a religion, equality for women, equality for minorities, including homosexuals. These are liberal principles that liberals applaud for. But then when you say in the Muslim world, this is what's lacking, then they get upset.
Yeah. Well, liberals have really failed on the topic of theocracy. They'll criticize white theocracy. They'll criticize Christians. They'll still get agitated over the abortion clinic bombing that happened in 1984. But when you want to talk about the treatment of women and homosexuals and free thinkers and public intellectuals in the Muslim world, I would argue that liberals have failed us. And the crucial point of confusion, thank you.
Thank God you're here.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the crucial point of confusion is that we have been sold this meme of Islamophobia, where every criticism of the doctrine of Islam gets conflated with bigotry toward Muslims as people.
Right.
That is, it's intellectually ridiculous. Even it gets
So hold on, are
racism.
you the person who understands the officially codified doctrine of Islam? You're the interpreter of that, so you can say, well, this is...
I'm actually well educated on this topic.
I'm asking you. So you're saying if I criticize you're saying that Islamophobia is not a real thing. That if you're critical of something...
Well, it's not a real thing when we do it.
Right.
Well, no,
it really isn't.
I'm not denying that certain people are bigoted against Muslims as people. And that's a problem.
Big of you.
But
why are you so hostile about this concept?
It's gross. It's racist.
It's not. But it's so not.
It's like saying those stateless, shifty Jew.
You're not listening
Absolutely
to
not.
what we are saying.
You guys are saying if you want to be liberals, believe in liberal principles like freedom of speech, like we are endowed by our forefathers with inalienable rights, like all men are created equal.
Ben, we have to be able to criticize bad ideas. And
of course we do. No liberal doesn't want to criticize bad ideas.
But Islam at this moment is the motherlode of bad ideas.
Jesus.
So we have
That's
ideas
just a fact.
like blasphemy.
It is
it's an ugly
apostasy.
It is
one basic liberal
let me
principle
unpack
is
it.
tolerance.
Let me unpack it.
But not for intolerance.
No, of course not. But the picture you're painting is, to some extent, true, but is hugely incomplete. It is certainly true that plenty of...
See the Ben Affleck one?
Yes, with Sam Harris.
Sam Harris.
Yes, Sam's a friend of mine.
I love Sam.
I love Sam too. That was hilarious.
I
think Ben Affleck was roided up.
Oh, because of Batman. That's right.
I really
he
do.
had that energy.
Well, he also was like kind of red and thick.
Yeah.
Like his neck was thick. Like, listen, when you're 40, whatever the fuck age he is, and you want to pack on that kind of muscles, there's only one way, baby. You gotta fucking take that plunger,
prick poop shoot.
Yeah, that's what I think. I think he was juiced up, and I think he just was hyper aggressive, virtue signaling, and really didn't even know what the fuck he was talking about, and clearly picked the wrong guy.
Oh my God. I would never argue with Sam Harris. I think about it.
I've been taking steroids for 25 years. I started when I was 18. The reason I started was I was a competitive bodybuilder, and I was willing to do whatever it takes to reach my goal. This is not making me look good right here, what I'm saying, but I'm just being honest and I'm being straight and I'm telling people the truth. I'm not telling people to take steroids. I'm not recommending it. In fact, I don't think it's a very good fucking idea to take steroids. You know, if you can stay natural for as long as you can, that's the way to go.
Well, it's got to be this one then. All the best actors have jumped to Netflix and HBO, you know, and the actors who just do Hollywood movies now do fantasy adventure nonsense. They wear masks and capes and really tight costumes. Their job isn't acting anymore. It's going to the gym twice a day and taking steroids, really. Have we got an award for most ripped junkie? No. No point. We know he'd win that.
Where I think this whole discussion that everyone's been having for the last 8 months or so started. And you were on Real Time with Bill Maher, and you were on to talk about your book. Bill was talking about liberalism and Islam, and Ben Affleck was on, and I know everyone's seen this clip already, but let's take a look.
It really isn't.
I'm not denying that certain people are bigoted against Muslims as people, and that's a problem.
Big of you.
But
But why are you so hostile about this concept?
It's gross. It's racist.
It's not. But it's so not.
It's like saying those stateless, shifty Jew.
You're not listening
Absolutely
to
not.
what we are saying.
You guys are saying if you want to be liberals, believe in liberal principles like freedom of speech, like we are endowed by our forefathers with an inalienable rights, like all men are created equal.
Ben, we have to be able to criticize bad ideas.
So first off, I think it's gross, it's racist should be your Twitter bio. Have you considered putting it there?
People have been just throwing that at me on Twitter ever since.
Yeah,
it's a bit of a meme.
Yeah, so what I want to start with is, because I think there's obviously a ton we can talk about the fallout of this, and we'll get to that, but I want to talk about actually the specifics of what happened there.
Right.
Did you expect, because usually when they bring on the guest that sits on Bill's side of the table, usually it's for a one-on-one with Bill and sort of a casual conversation, the panel doesn't really jump in. Did you expect that whole thing to explode the way that it did?
No, not at all. I was selling a book on meditation at that moment. I was talking, and the first, that's about 60 seconds into the exchange.
Yeah.
And so initially it starts with, how can an atheist be spiritual? And we're talking along those lines. And I said something slightly derogatory about the New Age. And Ben jumped into that space and was at my throat about Islam hadn't even come up. So he clearly was poised to do that. And that's considered a protected interview. Everyone on the panel knows they're not supposed to jump in.
What do you think was going on with Ben?
Well, apart from him possibly being on steroids for his Batman role, I don't know. I just think he clearly I think he had no idea who I was really, but someone had given him a paragraph, a bio of me, and had more or less told him that I'm a bigot who's intolerant of Muslims, and he really should take a whack at me on that topic.
Yeah.
Honestly, I think I was a little slow to appreciate how hostile he was, because I wasn't just looking at him. I was actually looking at Nick Kristof, who I have actually collided with on this topic, and who.
You created a firestorm there. So, do you stand by your statements that Islam is the motherlode of bad ideas?
Yeah, that's the kind of thing you say when a celebrity is shouting over you and not letting you talk. So it's not. It requires more discussion than that. And
you are an atheist, and the point being for many people is that you can criticize Christianity. No one will call you anti-Christian or anti-American, but if you do the same when it comes to Islam, then you're Islamophobic.
Well, we have a kind of dogma of political correctness here, which is stifling conversation. Many liberals want to grade Islam on a curve, that we're not expecting the same kind of civility and openness to free speech and other liberties that we hold dear and are right to hold dear from Muslims throughout the world. And so when cartoonists draw the wrong cartoon and embassies start burning, we criticize the cartoonists, and we criticize the newspapers that printed the cartoons, and we practice self-censorship. There was an academic book at Yale University Press on the cartoon controversy that wouldn't publish the cartoons. This is just madness, and it's a double standard that if you actually want to look for racism and bigotry, this is the bigotry of low expectations. This is a kind of racism and this point doesn't originate with me. My friend Ayaan Hirsi Ali has made this point many times.
And as we started to come out of the recession, and the economy, because of the entrepreneurial spirit and the fact we got great workers, started to recover, the enemy hit us on September the 11th, 2001. It's a day of terrible loss, deep mourning. September the 11th taught a lesson I will never forget, and our country must never forget. America must confront threats before they fully materialize.
Are you optimistic about the future?
Yeah. I say that because it's going to take a lifetime's work, and I don't think that in our lifetime much is going to change.
ISIS, the Islamic State, is sort of fading from most people's memory now. I mean, there's, even mine. I'm spending much less time thinking about it because it's
a bureaucracy has been fought back, but the ideology upon which that organization was built is still very much alive, and it's still strong. What Al-Qaeda did while the whole world was focused on ISIS was exploit that opportunity to rebuild and regroup, and they've been rebuilding in Syria. Now they are stronger than they have ever been, even under bin Laden, because for the first time in the history of that organization, they are firmly embedded within the Syrian population as a genuinely kind of viewed by the people that they were fighting on behalf of as a grassroots resistance organization, whereas before that they were seen as a terrorist group that was like just like a vanguard. They are resurgent, and they are grooming Hamza bin Laden, who is bin Laden's son, and they're grooming him for leadership. And a time will come, maybe in a couple of months, maybe in a couple of years, where they announce Hamza bin Laden as the new leader of Al Qaeda.
Jesus,
because they can change their name.
As you point out, there's another layer to the ideology that is even more well subscribed, that presents social and political problems. So as you said, there are conservative Muslims who don't support Al Qaeda. They're not jihadists. They would honestly say, bin Laden doesn't represent my brand of Islam, but these are still people who will say that homosexuals should be killed.
That's right.
So it's like there's apparent allies against quote extremism can still be people with religiously mandated social attitudes that just cannot be assimilated in cosmopolitan societies. So people who are worse than Al Qaeda inspired extremism. There's just this notion that on the left, and this came out of Obama's mouth and it came out of Clinton's mouth, and it's largely why she wasn't president.
I often say that, because again, under the Obama presidency, it was frustrating that the common refrain was to say that this has nothing to do with Islam. It's as absurd as arguing that the Spanish Inquisition had nothing to do with Catholicism.
He went even further at one point, didn't he? At one point say that not only does this have nothing to do with Islam, this has less to do with Islam than any other religion. Something that, it was just, he bent over backwards. And
it's like saying the Crusades have nothing to do with Christianity,